All right, so if you've ever worked in tech, you definitely know this feeling, right? A super critical security flaw gets flagged, the alert goes out, and then crickets. Weeks go by, maybe even months. The fix is just stuck. It's so frustrating for everyone involved. So let's dive into why this happens, and more importantly, what we can actually do about it. And this really is the central puzzle, isn't it? I mean, it's not like we don't have brilliant developers or dedicated security teams, and we're certainly not short on expensive tools. Everybody wants the problem fixed, and yet there it is, just sitting in a backlog, gathering dust. So what is the real bottleneck here? Well, what if I told you the answer isn't some brand new fancy tool? It turns out the solution is much less about technology and way more about, you guessed it, human psychology. It's all about figuring out what truly motivates people to act, and it all kicks off with a surprisingly simple idea. Okay, so let's get right to it. At the heart of this is something called the transparency principle. And trust me, it's a super powerful way to completely reframe this whole problem. Yeah, you've probably heard this old management mantra a million times. It's the absolute foundation for this entire approach. Think about it. The second you start measuring something, anything, people's behavior just starts to change. It's almost automatic. And you know what? This applies perfectly to security. So here's the secret sauce. When you stop hiding vulnerability data in some siloed security report and instead you make it visible to everyone, I'm talking development, operations, even upper management, the speed at which things get fixed just skyrockets. It's not magic, it's pure psychology. Okay, so why does this work so well? What's going on under the hood, psychologically speaking? Well, it all boils down to three really powerful drivers that kick in the moment we realize our work is out there for others to see. Let's break them down. First up, we've got something called perceived accountability. And let's be clear, this is not about formal punishment or getting in trouble. It's that simple, powerful feeling that you are responsible for something and that other people know you're responsible. You know, when a task has your name on it and everyone can see it, you just feel a way stronger sense of ownership, right? And this quote just nails it. It really gets to the heart of that personal feeling. It's like that little voice in your head that says, hey, my actions or, my inaction are totally visible. And that awareness, all by itself, is a massive, massive motivator to get things done. All right, the second driver is perceived surveillance. Now, I know that sounds a little Big Brother, but it's way more subtle than that. It's just this constant, kind of low-level awareness that someone could be looking. It's exactly like a security camera in a store, right? Just its presence changes how people behave, even if nobody is actually watching the monitor at that exact second. And yep, this quote captures that feeling perfectly. When you've got a central dashboard that shows the status of all the security patches, every single team knows that the security folks, their own manager, maybe even the CEO could be glancing at it right now. That kind of passive monitoring really encourages everyone to stay on their A-game. And finally, there's behavioral deterrence. Look, we're social animals, right? We are just hardwired to avoid looking bad in front of our peers. Nobody wants to be that person or that team that's holding everyone else up. And honestly, this might just be the most powerful motivator of all three. And it's not just a hunch. Research actually shows that this kind of informal social pressure can be way more effective than the threat of some official punishment. The idea of letting your team down or hurting your team's reputation or even just losing a friendly competition with another team, that's an incredibly powerful reason to get moving. Okay, so enough with the theory. Let's see how this actually works in the real world. Because some of the biggest companies out there are already using these very principles to get some pretty massive results. The 2017 Equifax data breach is unfortunately a perfect case study of what happens when transparency is missing. The post-mortem found a huge reason for the breach was that nobody was really sure whose job it was to apply the patch. Now, contrast that with the modern approach. You've got a central internal dashboard where every single vulnerability has a clear owner assigned to it. The difference in the outcome? It's night and day. And if you want some hard data, check this out. There's this one software company, we'll just call them TechCo, that was really struggling with patching delays, mostly because of friction between their teams. So they tried one simple change, a public, bi-weekly meeting where all the teams got together to review the status of every vulnerability. The result? In just 1 year, their average response time was cut by more than half. That's the power of just sharing information.
And if you want to see this on a massive scale, just look at Google's Project Zero. Their policy is simple. They give vendors 90 days to fix a security bug before they disclose it to the public. We're talking transparency on a global scale. Before they did this, some fixes would take over 6 months. Now, over 97% are fixed within that 90-day window. That pressure of public disclosure and risking your reputation, yeah, it works.
But hold on, there's a really important catch here. You have to get this right. Because if you're not careful, this whole transparency thing can totally backfire. So let's talk about how to do it the right way. And this is probably what you're thinking right now, and it's the most important question of all. Because if all you do is create a public wall of shame, you're just going to create fear and resentment. People will start hiding problems instead of solving them. So how do you get all the good stuff without creating a toxic culture? This quote from a security pro who's been doing this for over a decade really holds the secret. The key is to present the information in a totally neutral way. It's not about pointing fingers. It's just about showing the status. You have to completely change how the information is framed. So here's the playbook for what we can call soft transparency. Step 1. Frame the data like a simple, neutral status page. Think system health dashboard, not a list of failures. Step 2. Make it passively visible. Put it on the company wiki, mention it in regular updates so people just get used to seeing it around. And step 3, and this is crucial, be patient. It can easily take 6 months or more for the culture to really absorb this and for behavior to start changing on its own. Because at the end of the day, the goal is a total mindset shift. A vulnerability stops being a personal failing that someone gets called out for. Instead, it just becomes another piece of status information, just like server uptime or the number of open bugs. It's something that everyone can see and that everyone collectively owns. So, as we start to wrap this up, let's just boil it all down. What does this all mean? Well, it means the most powerful tool you have for security might not be a piece of software at all. So, what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, just making things visible creates a culture of ownership. That's huge. Second, don't ever underestimate the power of that gentle, informal social pressure. It's a seriously powerful motivator. Third, doing this the soft way is what builds trust instead of fear. And finally, and this is a big one, this is probably one of the most cost-effective security strategies you could ever implement. And so that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. In your organization, are vulnerabilities treated like secrets, hidden away in some report? Or are they treated like shared information that everyone can see and, more importantly, act on? Because the answer to that question might just be the key to unlocking a faster, safer, and way more collaborative culture.